252.
Hey, welcome to another episode of 252. This is Frank G here along with
Johnny Blaze,
Cool Water Kurt,
and I'm Ralphie D.
Oh, we got sexy Ralphie D today. Hey Frank, what are we talking about on this one?
Today we're going to be talking about swing, guys. Let's send it over to Ralphie D for some smooth talk about Spidey.
Ooh, yeah. All right. I feel like I'm getting mocked, but hey, I'm still gonna roll with it. Look, I've been a Spider-Man fan ever since I got my first set of underoos back in 1976.
You've been a Spider-Man fan since '76?
At least.
Because I remember when we were kids, whenever we would pick, you play that game. It's like, hey, I'm Superman, I'm Batman. Ralphie was always Spider-Man. Always Spider-Man, never changed. Never wanted to be anybody else.
Damn right.
And he also had this thing where he felt like, now kids, when you read comic books and you watch cartoons, never try to mimic or emulate the things that you see in comic books and movies.
Untrue. You should always do that.
With that being
now
said,
listen, you've seen me do some amazing things.
I saw some pretty spectacular things when we were growing up. Man, you should be fucking dead, man. You should be dead.
This is true.
I saw you do some things and I was like, wow, you can't do that again.
Well, see, it's a combination of being limber and being long. And I used to be both. Now I'm just one of those things. And I'm talking about my body itself. I was long and limber, and I could jump. I had a nice leap, so I would embody Spidey, and I just wanted to be everything that Spider-Man was. I would be a white kid.
I want to be from
my uncle get killed.
I want a little man, and I want to give her May, and I want to have her make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I would make sweet love to a redheaded girl. All that. I did have a girlfriend named Mary Jane, but that is a different story.
Well, going back to Spider-Man, like nobody that I knew, except for maybe my nephew when he was really, really young, he loved Spider-Man like you love Spider-Man.
No one does.
Everything was Spider-Man. Every birthday was Spider-Man.
Okay.
Every gift was Spider-Man.
You know what? He might have me beat because I couldn't have Spider-Man everything, but the Spider-Man things I could get.
Because at that time, we had the movies and then it was more mainstream. Yeah. And even though Spider-Man was the Marvel Comics equivalent to
Mickey Mouse for Disney.
Yeah. I mean, he is remember when they would put that little square box at the bottom of the comic book? Oh, yeah. It was Spider-Man for a long time.
Well, for good reason. He's the number one selling comic, or he was, I'm sure he still is, since his inception.
Oh, yeah.
And he knocked out Batman.
Yeah.
Because first it was Superman, then Batman, and Spider-Man came along and just wiped the floor with it.
No, listen, kind of on a tangentially speaking, what is DC's equivalent to what Stan Lee was to Marvel? Did DC ever have that person? What do you think of when you think of DC's
Jim Lee now?
Well, the editor of the time that was similar to Stan Lee was Mort Weisinger, and he's the guy that did all the Silver Age things, like putting gorillas on every cover and making all the wacky stuff that people think about then. But he wasn't exactly the direct equivalent because it wasn't really his. He didn't create all this stuff. He was just in charge of telling people what to put together.
Right.
Whereas Stan Lee had that direct involvement, and if you didn't like it, that was too bad because that's what he was going to do.
Exactly, and that's what you gotta love about him. And I tell you what, I've had so many long conversations walking home from school with my friends talking about. I mean, they seem pointless now, but I mean back then they were everything. If you could be a superhero, what powers would you have? Who would you be if you had to be a superhero? What color would your tights be? Because I know you're gonna pick Spider-Man, Ralphie, but you can't pick red and blue. I mean, just pointless, endless conversations. And you know what was my favorite? Was finally when that video game came out. And I want to say it was 97 on PlayStation?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the 2600 game.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
Yeah, no, I wasn't a fan.
It wasn't a good game, but it was Spider-Man, so I had to have it. There weren't that many
arcade game.
There weren't that many comic book games out there at the time.
Yeah. The arcade game I do remember, and that was a good one, but it was that world that you could kind of explore in the PlayStation game that I remember.
Yeah, the arcade game was just walk forward and punch things like all the Ninja Turtles, X-Men, Simpsons, all those other games at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And
everything's rolls to the right.
Yeah. And if you wanted to, be Spidey and actually, hey, Frank, tell me what issue that is. I know you can't see the number.
It's first Hobgoblin 238.
Nice. He's good.
Does yours have the tattoos in it?
Let's see. I think it does. Uh-oh.
Careful not to drop them out if it does.
All right. So I have the tattoos in here.
Well, I would say, going back to with that fascination of Spider-Man, I was a Spider-Man fan, but I was more I like more of the X-Men, but Spider-Man had a cartoon.
That's right.
And I watched the Spider-Man cartoon. And not just the first one. I do remember, actually I can't even tell you if it was the first one, but there was that earlier Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends that had the
1981.
That had the song,
That
Spider-Man.
was
before the 60s.
That was 60s.
That was the 60s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they reran that throughout the 70s hard.
Right. I'm talking Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends with Firestar and
for some reason, and Iceman for some reason.
But I was like, man, I love that cartoon.
Yeah, it was great.
So I watched that cartoon more than I ever read Spider-Man books. I didn't start reading Spider-Man books until Todd McFarlane.
Ooh, that cartoon was supposed to be Spider-Man with Iceman and the Human Torch, which would have made more sense.
Yep.
But they wouldn't let him do the animated Human Torch because they were still afraid kids were going to set themselves on fire.
It makes sense.
Firestar was okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Human Torch has been around since 1963.
Oh, he's been around since a lot longer than that.
Actually, a lot longer like that, because there was the Human Torch.
Not to be confused with the Human Torch.
Right, because there was a Human Torch that was... No, I'm just saying. There was
the robot.
There was a Human
robot
with Captain America,
yeah,
right?
he was a robot.
Yes.
It went out of control and became a superhero.
Recycled him into the Vision, right?
First appeared in Marvel Comics #1.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
The Human Torch. Not to be confused with the Human Torch.
I'm pretty sure in original Marvel continuity, that Human Torch became parts of the Vision. I don't know if that's still in there now that they've done all the movie stuff or not, but once upon a time, that's what happened to the original Torch.
He was the cover star of Marvel
Was that
Comics
Toro?
Toro was his
that was
sidekick.
his little
sidekick.
mini sidekick. Yeah.
There you go. Well, and listen, and finally in, 2002, when Tobey Maguire had his big screen debut as Spider-Man. I mean, come on. That was my thing.
It's funny? I was actually talking to TDT recently, and I was saying that I remember the day because we all went to go see that Spider-Man movie.
That's right.
And we were literally on the edge of our seats, so we couldn't wait. And TDT and BG was just kept bumping their gums and talking. And Ralphie kept giving them that look
I could not believe that these two chicks that I had to sit next to were talking the whole movie.
And Ralphie was like, I waited my whole life for this movie. Shut the...
Kurt, I know this is your wife, but please.
And I was like man, you remember that? And I was like, yeah, you guys were really being a little, basically calling us a bitch.
You guys really wanted to watch that movie in the movie theater.
It's like, didn't I just pay $132 for all of us to come in here and watch this movie? Yes, I want to watch it.
I got to wind the clock back further than that. My first exposure to Spider-Man was the Electric Company. And I used to watch religiously just in case they had an episode. And there was only 70 episodes or something like that with Spider-Man in it. But even if it didn't have Spidey super stories, at the end when they're all waving goodbye, Spider-Man
would be there. Yeah,
Spider-Man was there.
Yep.
And I love Spidey super
How long
stories.
did the first live-action Spider-Man TV show last?
There was half a dozen episodes.
Those were made
They were
for
whole
TV movies. Like Spider-Man and the Chinese Web was the one I really liked.
What was the actor's name?
They took them and put them together. So they took 1 hour episodes and made 2 hour movies out of them later.
I remember watching him.
I think his real name was Peter.
I wanted to say it was like Peter McNichol, but that's not right.
Nah, he was in Ghostbusters too.
Peter McNichol?
Yeah, he was a little sidekick guy.
Oh, of the...
But what about Vigo, the master of evil? How about my boys? That's not legal. But he was a sidekick.
Yes.
Anywho.
Was he also like Dragon Slayer or something? Wasn't he the squire that killed the dragon and then at the end the knight came and stuck his winner? I slayed the dragon. I'm having a weird moment.
All I know is
he was an Ally McBeal too, right?
Yes,
that's the guy.
Yes,
okay, that is the guy.
Yeah, he did not play Spider-Man.
No. I think the guy
it was Nicholas Hammond.
Nicholas Hammond. There you go.
That was way off.
Think about, I think that the 70s Electric Company Spider-Man costume was actually better than the one on the CBS show.
I agree. Yeah.
He had that big, on the CBS, he had that big clunky web shooter thing around the outside of his wrist that magically shot nylon ropes across the buildings.
And they would wrap around stuff. I'm like, how is this happening? But I still love it. And he looked super pissy in the suit. It just wasn't right.
Well, I would have to say the Spider-Man suit isn't for everybody. One year for Halloween, I dressed up like Spider-Man. I do not have the build for Spider-Man. First of all, I got way too much junk in my trunk.
Yeah, it wasn't right.
It was not right.
Where'd you wear a regular belt?
I had to wear a belt because my butt was so big. It would just, like a pop tent from my shoulder blades out.
You got the Spider-Man onesie, though. You gotta have the...
I didn't know. And I asked you guys when I came out, I was like, does this look okay?
No,
it feels tight.
It doesn't feel drafty because we can see all of you.
Can you see my balls? I feel like you can see them.
Yes, you're sure.
So, I'm just saying, you can't just jump into a Spider-Man costume. And I wore that and it was October and it was cold.
Yeah.
And I wore that Spider-Man costume all night long.
Did you wear regular shoes?
You wore regular shoes?
Oh, Jesus.
Of course I wore. What do you think? I bought some red boots to go with it?
Yeah, no, I knew you didn't.
I wore Nikes. Black Nikes.
Here's a trivia question for you. Who designed that Spider-Man costume?
Steve Ditko.
Steve Ditko,
yes.
He says, or actually, no, it was Jack Kirby. Steve Ditko made a bunch of concept designs and they all looked too creepy. So he asked Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby came up with the red and blue costume.
Yeah.
That would actually make... I should have said Jack Kirby, because that actually makes more sense.
And Jack Kirby,
he was the king.
What he thought Spider-Man should look like was, big, bulky, hulking guy. But, Steve Ditko's drawing was,
it was a
skinny high school student.
Kind of
You know what's funny? Today, when I was in the streets of San Francisco, walking across by all those buildings, I thought in my head, you know what? If I got bit by a radioactive spider and I jumped straight up in the air 30 feet and a speeding car was about to hit me, my spider sense went off and I jumped out of the way, all these people here would probably be taking pictures of me with their cell phone. They video me all over the place. I was like, my time just changed.
Right, because Spider-Man would have to web a camera up to a wall and have it set to auto shoot, which I don't know how he did that. I don't think that technology was available back then, but somehow he had the best pictures of Spider-Man.
Always.
And you would think Peter Parker, as a freelance photographer, would actually be taking pictures and not just be on auto shoot.
Well, you gotta forgive Marvel a little bit. I mean, Iron Man's wonderful armor came from the magic of transistors.
Oh yeah,
because that was the new thing.
Yes.
In every other panel, I read the essential. It had the old Tales of Suspense. He said, "My transistor-powered repulsor rays. My transistor-powered this and that." Yeah. So you got to come a little bit psych. And then I saw an old panel that showed the first appearance of Dr. Octopus, and he was working with radioactive material. And there was like a clear block. Right. And his arms were reaching around as if that would protect him from the radiation.
Yes.
I got to say, Stan Lee and the boys, they weren't big on science.
But they were writers, and they made us think that they knew what they were talking about.
Well, they did
Think
say,
about that time, like people in general with science, you could get, home chemistry kits with chunks of uranium and radium and stuff. little itty bits of radioactive isotopes for the kids.
Oh, wow.
And you can get them out of smoke detectors.
Yeah.
That's how they work.
So here's a question I want to propose to the group, and I'm pretty sure I already know the answer. But what is your
Spider-Man.
favorite iteration of Spider-Man? What was your favorite era of Spider-Man? What was your favorite look of Spider-Man? And hell, I'll even say, if you wanted to, as a bonus, who was your favorite person who played Spider-Man?
Oh.
Well, my favorite iteration of Spider-Man was when the Spider-Man #1 came out around that time period.
I wonder if I could reach in my
That's,
magic box and pull it out.
I remember I got into Spider-Man because of you, Ralph, because I couldn't talk about anything else with you comic book wise.
Yeah.
It all had
I
to
don't
be
want to hear
Spider-Man.
about your dumb X-Men.
Yeah.
We're talking Spidey here, bro.
And he would not trade comics because all his comics were Spider-Man. He's the only comic collector I knew that wouldn't trade his comics. But that was favorite guy who played him. That would be tough. I'd
Well-
probably say the latest actor because he's more of a Steve Ditko Spider-Man.
I think we might be all around the table here, but I think as far as who played him, I think Tom Holland's going to be.
Yeah,
not just because he's the
winning.
most recent, but I mean the kid.
When they finally got
The
it
kid
right.
is good.
Yeah, he got it. They got it right, and the
Yeah.
kid had a Queen's accent. I mean, come on, Spider-Man's from Queens.
And
He
he's
should
British.
sound like
He's from Queens in the movie, but I may be wrong, but I definitely remember his neighborhood. He was from Forest Hills when Spider-Man in the Essentials.
Forest Hills is in Queens.
Is it in Queens? See, I didn't know that.
Now you learn something new every
He was
day.
but his neighborhood was Forest Hills, and they did it kind of a shot out to him when he's running after the bus in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. And Mary Jane told him to stop the bus, and he's been running since Forest Hills.
Here's a question.
So they-
Frank, how far away from Peter Parker did LL Cool J live?
Wow.
Because LL is from St. Albans, Queens.
Yeah, you'd have to map that out.
Yeah.
If only there was a
Only
way.
if there was a device that we could put in those two
You could
addresses.
stop by Jamaica, Queens for the Bristol Hotel and stop by Hollis to visit Run DMC. Queens was happening in the early
I'm
80s.
telling you. Sure was.
Going back, I would say for me, I mentioned before when Todd McFarlane had his run of Spider-Man, that Spider-Man #1, and I used
think
to
I have that.
I used to love even before that because Ralphie got me into him. I used to love not only that Spider-Man and how he would make his legs all. I mean, he was always leg up, leg down, all trippy. The webs look cool. The way he drew them made me appreciate that Spider-Man even more.
Yeah.
But it was always the little things too that Todd would always hide a spider somewhere on the cover,
Somewhere on
and you would have to look through and find where the spider was. And I'm not going to waste the show looking, but I'm going to find his definitely spider. I know it's on here somewhere.
Yeah, when Todd McFarlane came out with his Spidey, I mean, that was just it for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was loving everything from Ditko to Friends to anyone else who
I can't find this one.
scribbled Spidey in the 80s. But McFarlane, love you, babe. You Canadian bastard.
I found the spider.
Not the one in the box.
No, right here. There it is, right
Oh,
there.
there you go.
And on the lizard, there's a little spider
right.
right there.
We're going to call
Did you
this
see it?
episode Curtis Found the Spider.
I found the spider. I wasn't gonna give up on camera, baby.
All right, Frank, here we go. What number is this?
274, somewhere around there.
That was close. 278.
Okay.
Well, he did say somewhere around there.
Yeah, yeah, they got
I guess
they
that
got
whole
the
era
Hobgoblin.
was good. Was the whole the Hobgoblin era from the beginning to the end? I remember
Definitely good
We were
stuff.
really waiting for the end of that so much that I remember we went to the Comics and they had the ad and it said coming whatever day, and it said make an offer. And I had misunderstood that as they have this book and they want us to offer them a price because they're not going to sell it for 75 cents. Remember we
Right.
went okay, well, I'll give you I got $3. And I was like, okay, $3. And he goes to take the ad down. I'm like, I want the ad. I want the book.
I want the book, you son of a gun.
He's like, well, come back in 3 weeks like it says, you dumb kid.
Like, oh, okay. We thought you had the comic. All right. Well, I guess I'll
Those
take
guys,
the poster.
Yeah, they put up with a lot of crap from us. I'm sure the poster's worth more than the book now.
Yeah, no doubt.
A lot of those little
$289.
promos. Yeah, $289.
I have
That book actually is worth some money, but a lot of that promo
good.
stuff went up for sure.
I have a Spider-Man poster about yay big. It's drawn by John Romita Sr. It's from, remember the book fairs they used to have in elementary school?
Is it a yellow background?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one of those too on
Yeah.
in my collection. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the same one that's on the back door of the office in Crush Group.
that's the one. I couldn't remember where I got that from, so it was from a book fair.
yeah, I got it from a book fair. It's got on the back. It has the Scholastic Book Fair information on it.
I never read the back. I don't even like that front.
But I just loved Secret Wars, and it seemed like everybody was reading X-Men when we were getting into Spider-Man, and I just love the issue where Spider-Man single-handedly defeats all the X-Men.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I used to throw it in their face, say, "See, here's your X-Men, all dropped by Spider-Man."
That's
This is one of my favorite issues right here.
It happened.
it didn't.
When Spidey went up against the new Sinister Six.
First of all,
and he
Professor X would just stop everything
with one arm. Yeah, the web sling one of his arms.
He knocked him
that
out.
issue.
That was the first thing he did was take out Professor X.
And the
You
silver
can't
staple was in
sneak
there
up
for
on
some
Professor
reason.
X. I can hear you coming.
He
You
doesn't
got
have
spider
spider sense.
Man, I can hear your thought. Yeah, I'm about to get you. No, you're getting me. Anyway,
Not on your
you
best
know what?
day, Wolverine.
I want to say
Thank you.
something.
Hey, real quick.
Look.
Spider-Man beat Wolverine.
Okay. I knew
He
you was
beat
going to go there.
He beat
I
him.
got a story to say about that, but you know what? No, I am going to say that story right now. The year was 1991.
91, yes.
1991.
My senior year, your junior year.
1991. We're in
Scene, first period art class.
Art class. Okay? And there was this young lady that I had a crush on all semester long, and she was moving school. Her parents, one of them was there. I assume it was probably her dad was in the military.
Yeah.
And it was going, so she was like leaving and something like that. And this was my thing. I had this big crush for her. There was this thing I did. I really slow played the whole thing. I liked her, but I couldn't tell her how much I liked her. So we was in art class. We had to do some gesture drawings. So I asked her if she could model for me, just so I could have some alone time, because she agreed to do it because she had nice hair. So I did this whole thing. So anyway, I finally I love that issue. I finally get the courage to ask her out on a date. And I go up to her. It's like, "Hey, Maria, I'd like to talk to you about something." She's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm trying to talk to her about, if we can go out before she leaves. And then there's this conversation going on behind me.
And all he can hear is out of the side.
Actually, no, because Pat goes, "Curtis, who would win in a fight between Spider-Man and Wolverine?"
And I'm standing there like, you better
And
say the right thing.
I'm looking at Pat, I'm looking at Maria, I'm looking at Pat, I'm looking at Maria. And for some reason, I look back at Pat and I say, "Man, you already know who's going to win between Spider-Man and Wolverine. Wolverine, bell rings, she walks out, bam, that's it." And then as I'm trying to catch her through the crowd, there's more and more people are blocking my way. And that was it. Like that.
Never saw her again.
She was gone. Never saw her again.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is my 6-year-old, he is falling in love with Spider-Man. But his Spider-Man he's falling in love with is Miles Morales. I do not know the whole story about Miles Morales or anything like that. I mean, I was not reading comic books at that time when this character was introduced, but I do know that there's Into the Spider-Verse movies coming out. They're really hyping that up.
Yeah.
My kid wants to see it. I'm gonna take him. I just bought Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal that has Miles Morales Spider-Man on it that my son had to have. So we got that. And now, on Disney XD, they have a Spider-Man, and it's weird because I think it was like season 1 or season 2. I can't remember what he was watching, but he was watching it from the beginning. And it has actually Peter Parker and Miles Morales as teenagers.
Yeah, if you see the promo, they're both in the promo commercial for the movie.
Right, but I'm saying on the cartoon that Slayton was watching today, Peter Parker and Miles Morales, they're like in high school together or something like that. And it's weird because
I think they did that on that last Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. It was a pretty good show.
Yeah, so that's what he's watching now. It's like he's just discovering this Miles Morales Spider-Man. It's his Spider-Man, and it's weird because I love when all my kids love the kind of things that I'm into, and they all have little aspects of it. Kanan has kind of moved on a little bit from some of the stuff I love. He still likes some of it, but Justice is deep into it now. Now Slayton is starting to develop a love for it, and my daughter, she's always in and out of it. But it's nice to be able to vicariously live your childhood through your kids, through things that you love, that they love, because a lot of our heroes are timeless. Spider-Man was created in the 60s, and here we are in 2018, and Ralphie is actually going through his comic book box like he hasn't seen these in 20, 30 years.
Oh, it smells so good. I love that.
You remember when you would get a comic book from the comic book store and you take it home, you take your stack home with you, and you sit down and you crack that book open and start reading it?
Can you see that?
Hey, flip it around on the back. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that Tipper Gore?
Yeah, probably.
Is that who that's supposed to be?
I think so. I got this off the quarter rack, and I remember this having some cool stuff in it. But it felt like it. 1982 Marvel Comics book. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know how long this thing lasted, but I mean, it's a...
Ooh.
Yeah, you smell that?
Yeah, that was a very strong old paper smell.
Yep. So, I mean, in my collection, I have stuff that, say, Todd McFarlane may have drawn the cover of, or Spider-Man was this right here, Todd McFarlane Batman cover here. Or if Spidey was a guest superhero.
And the Death Superman.
Yeah, Death Superman.
How did that get in there?
I don't know. Oh, the Alien Alliance. I got suckered into buying this. I did this stuff here. That's probably not worth shit. But I got it.
That's when DC was doing all those annual crossovers.
I've
got buy all the
original and the reprint of these are the same comic.
Oh yeah.
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Yeah. And for some reason, Spidey in the Transformers. You remember this, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never really did explain how that worked. He was
I know.
there, and then he was not there, and then they never crossed back over again. Even though the Transformers are sort of Marvel Universe.
Right.
Sell it!
Sell it!
Sell them
We
books!
don't care.
The kids will buy them. They're 12 and they don't know any better.
All right. So with that, I'm just going to let you all know. Maybe I'm not the biggest Spider-Man freak in the world, but hey, I had my time. Still love them. And I would still be Spider-Man if I could be a superhero.
Who would you be, Kurt?
Wolverine, still, to this day.
That would be the Flash.
Really?
I used to be a runner a long time ago.
Well, some people call me the Flash, but for other reasons.
For Frank G, JB, and Ralphie D, I am Cool Water Kurt saying, always remember, if we're going to live together, we're going to have to be able to play together. The more colors, the more better. Peace and love must rule each and every time. Love knows no boundaries, and bullets have no names. Got anything else going out?
They call me the Flash.
I send a shout out to my man AM at Comics Most Wanted. Like him, follow him, subscribe to him. And don't do that.
And so, for the new underwater medical cookbook for actors, Deepak and Depp Go Deep with Dean, I'm Ralphie D. Saying good night.
What's that? A third sign off now?
Deepak Chopra and Johnny Depp go deep underwater with Paula Dean.
Say that 5 times fast.
No, don't ever say it again. All right, that's it. I'm done.
All right.
Adonis, pull yourself together.